I graduated from college in May of 2022, and like a lot of people my age, with zero responsibilities and too much caffeine in their system, I decided a solo road trip would be a good idea. One last little freedom run before the reality of full-time work kicked in. I mapped it out from Portland to Yellowstone, cutting through northern Idaho, because why not? Fewer tourists, lots of nature, and honestly, I liked the idea of going off the beaten path a little. That night, I was somewhere between Coeur d'Alene and Wallace. Long, dark stretches of two-lane highway. Not much traffic, just my Honda Civic humming along, an old playlist playing on shuffle, and an open bag of sunflower seeds keeping me awake. The windows were down just enough to let the night air in, and everything felt still in that peaceful, almost eerie way that remote highways get after midnight. I hadn't planned on stopping, but my gas light blinked on. I passed one station that looked shut down and another that just didn't feel right. Finally, a little before midnight, I spotted a glowing sign in the distance. It said, "Petro Stop," in flickering red letters. The lot was cracked and empty. Think wood paneling, dusty blinds, and colors nobody uses anymore. Yep, late 80s for sure. But the lights were on, and that was good enough. I pulled in, figuring it would be a quick in and out. Fill up, grab a snack, and keep moving. The place was weirdly quiet. No music, no radio behind the counter. Just that one annoying bulb buzzing above the register. Inside, it smelled like old coffee, oil, and that stale scent of forgotten places. There were racks of snacks that looked a little too dusty, and a half-lit cooler humming along with a few sad sodas in it. The ceiling tiles were stained, and the linoleum floors were worn to the bone. The guy behind the counter was maybe in his 60s, skinny, pale, with slick-back gray hair and a frayed red Petro Stop cap. He didn't say anything when I walked in, just watched me. Not rudely, just too focused, like he was sizing me up in slow motion. "Hey," I said. "Pump still working outside?" He nodded slowly, then added, "You headed somewhere?" "Yeah, just passing through, headed east." He blinked slowly. "By yourself?" That was the first time I felt it. That weird shift. The moment the question went from small talk to something else, something more intentional. The casual mask slipped just a little. "Yep, just me," I said, keeping it light. He gave this weird smile. "Big world to be out in all alone." I chuckled awkwardly. "That's kind of the point." He nodded again and leaned on the counter. "You call your folks much? Let them know where you are?" That one landed harder. I tried to deflect. "Yeah, I check in." "Good. Gotta have someone know where you are. Just in case, right?" I didn't answer, just gave him a tight smile and turned toward the door. "Thanks, I'll go fill up." "You should check your tires," he called as I pushed through the door. "Road gets rough up ahead." I nodded, even though I had zero intention of doing that. I just wanted to get my gas and get out. But when I got back to my car, he followed me out. "Want me to take a quick look? I used to be a mechanic." I shook my head. "I'm good, thanks." He hovered anyway, watching as I swiped my card and started pumping. "Car looks clean. Oregon plates?" "Yeah, just moved from there." He nodded, still not leaving. "You staying around here tonight?" "Motel, down the road. Haven't booked it yet." He smiled again, just a little too long. "Smart. You don't want to sleep in your car. People go missing like that." I didn't respond. I just finished pumping, mumbled a quick thanks, and got into my car. He stayed there, standing at the edge of the pump island, watching me as I drove off. His silhouette in the rearview mirror didn't move. 10 minutes later, I pulled into a small roadside motel. One of those places where the check-in office has a bell you have to ring and the ice machine looks older than I am. I didn't care. I was tired, creeped out, and just wanted a door with a lock. The clerk barely looked up, took cash, gave me a key with a giant plastic tag that said room 6. The parking lot was empty. It felt like I was the only person staying there, which was comforting and unsettling all at once. I parked, went inside, locked the door, and double-checked the window. Then, I remembered the little dash cam I kept running, mostly for insurance, but it captured everything from the drive. I rewound to the gas station stop, and sure enough, the guy was visible the whole time, following me out, standing next to my car, and then, about 10 seconds before I pulled away, he turned to the side of the building, Looked like he was messing with something. Still, I told myself it was weird, but not dangerous. People get lonely out here. Maybe he was just odd. I tried to sleep. Sometime after 2 a.m., I woke up to the sound of the door handle moving. Not loudly, not shaking, just a quiet, slow jiggle, like someone testing it, like someone trying to see if maybe I forgot to lock it. I sat up, didn't move, didn't make a sound. Then it stopped. I waited 5 minutes before creeping to the window and peeking out from behind the curtain. Nothing. But my heart started thudding when I remembered the dash cam. I had a portable charger running to it out in the car. I moved to the other window, the one facing the lot, and zoomed in with my phone camera on the dashboard. The red light was still blinking. In the morning, I reviewed the footage. Around 2:14 a.m., the camera picked up movement near the driver's side. A figure. The gas station attendant. Same hat, same weird smile. He stood by the car for a few seconds, then moved out of frame toward the motel door. You could see the faint reflection of him walking past the hood. Then, about a minute later, he came back, looked directly into the camera, and walked away. I went outside. My tires were fine. Nothing slashed, no obvious damage. But tucked under the wiper was a piece of paper. Not a note. Not really. Just a sentence, printed in blocky, careful handwriting. "You're lucky your lights were on." That was it. I went back inside, called the cops, and showed them the footage. They went to the gas station, but it was closed, locked up, no one inside. One of the cops said the place had changed ownership recently and didn't keep regular hours, no working phone line. The guy didn't match any ID they had on file. It was like he just slipped through the cracks. I didn't finish the road trip. I drove home the next day, head on a swivel, the whole time. And that note, I still have it. Hold it in my glove box. Just in case I ever pass another Petro stop or see that weird red hat again. I just spent the past 7 days at a spiritual retreat in Taos. One of those silent, no phones, reconnect with your soul kind of things. You wake up with the sun, drink ginger tea, and do more journaling than any one person should. And honestly, it had worked. I was feeling lighter. I hadn't felt that way in years. So when I packed up my things, said my goodbyes, and started the long drive back to Kansas, I was in a peaceful headspace. Windows cracked, soft folk music playing, no rush to get home. No stress, no deadlines, miles of road, and whatever was rattling around in my head. It was a little past 10 p.m. when I found myself on a long, empty stretch of road just outside Salina. The kind of road that feels like it forgot the rest of the world exists. Just darkness, wheat fields, and a 2-lane path cutting through it all. My high beams were on, catching little more than a mile of asphalt at a time. I wasn't tired, just kind of zoning out, thinking about what I'd learned during the retreat. Mindfulness, presence, stillness. You know that feeling when everything suddenly feels like it means something? Yeah, I was there. And then I saw her. She was just standing there, on the shoulder. A girl, maybe 10 or 11 years old, long dark hair, a faded white dress, no jacket, no bag, no shoes, nothing around her, no car, no broken bike, no reason, just her. Illuminated in my headlights like she'd been placed there on purpose. I slowed down instinctively, my brain scrambling to figure out what the hell I was looking at. I thought maybe it was a trick of the light, maybe a scarecrow or some weird roadside memorial. But the closer I got, the more I realized, nope, she was real. And she wasn't moving. I pulled over about 20 feet ahead of her, rolled down my passenger side window halfway, leaned over and called out, "Hey, sweetie, are you okay? Do you need help?" Nothing. She didn't move, didn't speak, just stared. Not at me exactly, just through me. I kept the engine running, hand hovering near my phone. My gut was starting to gnaw at me, but I didn't want to just drive off. What if she was hurt or lost? Or running from something? I tried again. Are your parents nearby? Did your car break down? Still nothing. That silence was starting to feel heavier by the second. Just as I reached for my phone to dial 911, I saw movement behind her in the cornfield. A man stepped out, tall, thin, wearing some kind of coveralls or maybe a work jacket. It was hard to tell in the dark. He was holding something in his hand. I couldn't tell what it was exactly, just that it was long, maybe heavy. A wrench, a tire iron, a tool of some kind. He didn't say anything, just stared, and then he took one step forward. I slammed the car into drive and peeled out of there so fast the gravel kicked up against the side of my door. I didn't look back. I didn't want to know if they were following. I just drove. My breathing went shallow. My whole body locked up like it didn't know if I should cry or scream or both. I think I was 3 miles down the road before I remembered to breathe again. I found a gas station off the next exit, pulled into the lot, and sat there with my hands trembling on the wheel. The peace from earlier felt like a distant memory. The quiet, spiritual stillness had been replaced with a very real sense of dread. I called the police, told them exactly where I was and where I'd seen the girl. They said they'd send someone out to check. An officer called me back about 40 minutes later. They hadn't found anything. No girl, no man, nothing. They were both gone. Not even a footprint, just the tire tracks on the shoulder. He asked if I was sure it wasn't a hallucination, that maybe I dozed off or was overtired. I wasn't. I knew what I saw. I knew it like I know my own name. I didn't tell him this, but I kept thinking about the girl's expression. It wasn't just blank. It was empty, like there was no one inside, like she wasn't even scared, just waiting. The officer thanked me for calling and hung up. That was it. I didn't sleep at all that night. I kept the lights on in my motel room and the TV running. Every time a car passed outside, I jumped. I checked the door lock 5 times before I even took off my shoes. The next morning, I debated turning around, going back, helping with the search. But the officer had told me there wasn't one. No open case. No missing child report. As far as they were concerned, nothing had happened. I drove home, but I think about her a lot, more than I should. About how long she must have been standing there, how many other people must have passed her without stopping, and about the man behind her, what he was doing in the cornfield, what he was holding, if he was waiting for me, or if I just happened to be next. Sometimes I wonder if I was meant to stop, if it had been a trap, if she'd been bait, a decoy, something to disarm me, make me vulnerable. And sometimes I wonder what would have happened if I'd gotten out of the car, or worse, if I hadn't noticed the man until it was too late. You know what hit hardest? No one believes me. Not really. Not my sister, not my coworkers. They just kind of smile and nod. That face people make when they think you've exaggerated. I can't blame them. I probably wouldn't believe me either, but I know what I saw. And I know there's something out there off that highway near Salina. Something that doesn't leave tracks, doesn't leave evidence. Something that waits in the dark with a girl who doesn't blink. I avoid that stretch of road like my life depends on it. And honestly, it might. I take the long way now. Adds 2 hours to my trip, but I don't care. Because whatever I saw that night, it wasn't just a girl in trouble. It was something else entirely. I hadn't thought about that trip in months, until last week, when I saw a white van idle across from the cafe I was in. Same busted taillight. I didn't even pay for my coffee, I just walked out the back door. Anyway, here's what happened. We were about 5 days into our road trip across the Southeast, Just four college guys trying to make the most out of that weird little window of time between finals and internships. Me, Rob, Elijah, and Matt. The car was cramped. Our snacks were down to gas station trail mix and lukewarm Gatorade. And the vibe was mostly chaotic with bursts of deep conversations and off-key karaoke. The kind of road trip where everything feels like a story in the making. The kind where you think you'll remember everything, down to the color of the sky and the dumbest inside jokes. We'd set up a Discord server so our friends could follow along. Dumb pics, voice notes, little travel updates. It was public because, well, why not? Who'd care? It was mostly people from our campus and a few randoms from some road trip subreddits we'd posted in. The server was called 4 Morons, 1 Car. That night, we were headed out of Savannah, pushing west on some back roads in Georgia. It was late, maybe close to midnight, and we were aiming for a cheap motel outside Macon. Elijah was half asleep in the back seat when he meant to send a pin drop to his girlfriend. He was mumbling and fumbling with his phone and, like an idiot, sent our exact location in the general chat instead of the private one. We saw it pop up a few minutes later. Live location shared. Rob groaned. Bro, really? In general? Crap, my bad, Elijah muttered, sitting up, deleting it. He took it down fast. We laughed about it, moved on. No big deal. About 40 minutes later, we stopped at a 24-hour gas station to pee and switch drivers. I remember the lights were those flickering yellow ones that make everything look like a scene from a horror movie. The parking lot was almost empty. That's when I got the first message. Cool hat, by the way. It came through on Discord. No profile pic. Username was just numbers and a dash. I was wearing a stupid trucker hat we picked up in a tourist shop back in Charleston. Only someone nearby would know that. I showed it to Rob. You think it's a joke? He asked, with this weird little laugh. Maybe? Then came the second message. Hope you brought snacks. Now, it wasn't funny. Elijah checked his phone. The location was gone from the chat. Whoever sent those messages had seen it before it was deleted. We all looked around the parking lot. A white van was parked 2 spots down from us, unmarked. Engine running, lights off. Matt whispered, "We need to go. Now." We didn't even buy anything. Just piled back into the car and sped out. I kept checking the rear view. The van didn't follow us. Not at first. To distract ourselves, we talked. Bad idea. The tension started turning inward. Elijah was quiet. Matt snapped at him about being careless. Rob tried to lighten the mood, but it didn't land. We were all starting to feel the cracks. An hour later, at a fast food drive-thru near Milledgeville, it was there again. Parked across the street. We weren't totally sure at first, but when we left, it pulled out a minute after us. Same shape, same busted taillight. That's when panic really started to set in. We killed the lights and took a random left turn onto a narrow wooded back road. Elijah pulled out his phone and killed Bluetooth, GPS, and everything else. We all did. Paranoia had us thinking our phones were giving us away. Matt muttered, "I feel like I'm gonna puke." The road twisted and narrowed. No lights, no houses, just dense trees and darkness. We drove in silence, listening for anything behind us. At some point, Rob turned on his brights, and we saw deer eyes flash in the trees. It all felt like some nightmare you couldn't wake up from. We passed a rusty fence, a dried-up creek, and what looked like a burned-down barn. Everything around us felt forgotten. At one point, we thought we saw someone walking along the tree line, but when we circled back, there was nothing there. Eventually, we found a church parking lot, dark and empty, and cut the engine. We didn't talk, just sat there in silence, barely breathing, windows cracked, ears straining. Waited. 10 minutes passed, then 20. Still nothing. We started to believe we'd shaken whoever it was. We kept our phones off for a while longer. But eventually, curiosity won. One by one, we turned them back on. Signal was weak, but it came back. Messages started flooding in from friends, from the Discord, from people wondering what happened to the stream. Then one last message came in. Same anonymous user. You're no fun. That was it. No follow-up. No threats. Just that. We ditched the server immediately. Elijah deleted the app entirely. We found a motel 20 miles out, paid in cash, and left no digital trail. We even parked the car around the back. I kept waking up that night. I couldn't relax. One creak or engine and I was sitting straight up. I swore I saw the same van again when we left the next morning, parked outside a diner across the street, but it could have just been a similar one. When I got home, I went full digital detox, deleted everything, changed passwords, changed my number. I didn't talk about it for months. I'd lie awake wondering if we'd been followed the whole trip, if the van was always there, just blending in. Sometimes I catch myself checking rooftops for cameras, checking mirrors for cars that keep showing up. I don't post where I am anymore. I don't even use ride shares. And I don't let anyone tag me in photos without asking. Some nights I still think about that message. Not the words, but the tone. Like we were disappointing someone. Like they were watching us for fun and we ruined the game. We never figured out who it was. Maybe someone local who spotted the post. Maybe someone who'd been watching longer than we realized. I was driving back to school after spending the weekend with my parents. It was supposed to be an easy 6-hour drive from their place just outside Des Moines to Springfield, Illinois, where I had an apartment near campus. I'd left later than planned, around 9:30 p.m., because my mom made dinner and then guilt-tripped me into staying for dessert. Before I pulled out of the driveway, my dad leaned into the window and said, half joking, "Don't stop at any of those creepy rest areas, all right?" I laughed it off, told him I'd be fine. I've thought about that moment more times than I can count. By the time I hit Peoria, I was already nodding off. I figured I'd pull over, nap for an hour or two, then finish the drive. The rest stop I found was barely lit. Just a couple of floodlights and a single vending machine shelter. There were 2 other cars there, spaced far apart, engines off. I parked close to the building, locked my doors, and cracked the windows an inch, just enough for air. It was one of those early spring nights that still carried winter's chill, and the silence felt heavier than it should have. I reclined my seat and tossed my hoodie over my face to block out the lights. My phone was at 13%, so I plugged it into the charger and kept the screen off. Just before I drifted off, I remember checking the time. 2:41 a.m. I woke up to knocking. It wasn't loud or aggressive, just this slow, creepy tap, tap, tap on the driver's side window. I sat up fast, hoodie slipping down into my lap. There was a man standing there. Tall, maybe late 40s, clean-shaven. He was wearing what looked like a navy uniform jacket and black pants. Not quite a cop uniform, but close enough to make me hesitate. He tapped again, then motioned for me to roll down the window. His other hand held up a badge. Something felt off. I couldn't tell what right away. Maybe it was how calm he looked. Like he knew I'd open the window. I leaned forward a little. The badge was upside down, just dangling from a lanyard around his neck. And his shirt underneath, it had police written on it, but the letters were uneven, smudged, like someone had scribbled them on with a marker. The badge didn't even glint. It looked plastic. He knocked one more time, then said through the glass, "Ma'am, you can't sleep here. This area isn't safe." I didn't move. He smiled like he was trying to be reassuring. "You okay? Want to step out so we can talk?" Every instinct told me no. That smile didn't match the situation. That voice didn't sound like someone just doing their job. It sounded like someone trying to sound like they were just doing their job. I shook my head and mouthed, "I'm fine." He straightened up, looked around the lot, then leaned down again. "Look, I'm just trying to help. You're not in any trouble." My hand found the keys. I started the engine and flicked on the headlights. That changed everything. His smile dropped. He backed up a step. I put the car in reverse and peeled out of that parking lot so fast I nearly clipped the curb. In the rearview mirror, I saw him still standing there, staring. I didn't stop driving for a long time. My hands were shaking on the wheel. My mouth was dry. I didn't even know what I was running from exactly. I just knew I had to put distance between us. When I finally pulled into a 24-hour diner closer to Springfield, I parked near the front entrance, in full view of the windows, and stayed inside until sunrise. I ordered a coffee I didn't drink and sat in a booth near the front, trying to calm down. At one point, I thought I saw someone walk past the window twice, but it might have just been nerves. I used the payphone near the restrooms to call the local sheriff's office and explained what had happened. The deputy on the line asked a few questions, then said, "We didn't have anyone patrolling that rest stop last night, and we don't wear uniforms like that." I gave them the best description I could. They said they'd send someone to check it out, but I never heard anything back. Maybe they found something. Maybe they didn't. I wasn't exactly eager to follow up. That week, I started looking up self-defense classes. I deleted my location sharing settings. My roommate asked if something had happened on the drive back. I told her I'd hit traffic. That was easier than trying to explain the fear that had followed me home. And the fear didn't fade quickly. I found myself triple-checking locks. Any sudden noise made me jump. Even grocery runs became a chore, because the thought of someone approaching me again made my stomach twist. I couldn't shake the feeling that someone had targeted me. Not just a random creep, but someone who studied how to appear just trustworthy enough. For days after that, I couldn't stop replaying it. The fake badge, the marker-stained shirt, that too familiar way he smiled, like he knew exactly what he was doing and how close he'd come. I didn't tell my parents. They'd already been worried about me driving so late, and I definitely didn't stop at rest areas alone anymore. Even now, all these years later, I avoid solo drives at night unless I absolutely have to. And if I do, I make sure I never, ever fall asleep behind the wheel again. Because someone out there is pretending to be the kind of person you're supposed to trust. Someone who walks up to your window in the dead of night and knows you're tired, alone, and too disoriented to think clearly. And I still don't know what would have happened if I'd cracked that window just a little wider. What really sticks with me is how quiet it all was. No screaming, no struggle, just a soft knock and a fake smile. Sometimes I think the scariest part isn't that he found me, but that he didn't even seem in a rush. Like he had time. Like maybe I wasn't his first stop that night. And even scarier, maybe I wasn't his last. That thought, that's what makes me keep the doors locked, even in daylight. That's what makes me look twice at anyone in uniform. And that's why I still carry a can of mace in my lap when I drive long distance, just in case someone else decides to knock. If you thought that guy at the gas station was weird, you're gonna hate what's coming next. Smash that like button, hit subscribe, and comment with your most paranoid road trip moment. We've all had one. And if you're convinced you know who lives around you, click now to watch 4 scary neighbor horror stories, because real danger might be living right next door. Stay ready, stay safe, and I'll see you in the next nightmare.